Blitzkrieg, also known as the Lightning War, was a new combat tactic used on a large scale by Germany during World War II. Blitzkrieg fully exploited the speed advantage of planes and tanks. It used surprise to launch rapid strikes against the enemy. This quickly shattered the enemy's psychological defenses, leading to a decisive victory. At the beginning of World War II, the German army used Blitzkrieg to wreak havoc. They conquered Denmark in 4 hours, the Netherlands in 4 days, and Belgium in 18 days. Poland was defeated in 35 days, and France, considered the strongest in Europe, fell in 42 days. This battle is a textbook example in military history. As the old saying goes, speed is the key to victory. The core of Blitzkrieg is one word: speed. So, how did this terrifying Blitzkrieg come about? Why did this tactic unleash such incredible power in such a short time? And what are its weaknesses and drawbacks? In this video, we'll talk about Blitzkrieg. After World War I ended, Germany, as the defeated country, was forced to sign the Treaty of Versailles. The treaty imposed strict limitations on Germany's army, navy, and air force. The army was reduced to 100,000 men, and they were prohibited from having modern weapons like tanks and heavy artillery. The navy was weakened to an insignificant level. They were allowed to keep only a few ships. The air force was completely disbanded. They were forbidden to produce military aircraft and airships. These restrictions were a heavy blow to Germany's military power, but they forced the German military to rethink how to find a new breakthrough in warfare with limited resources. So, they began reflecting on the lessons from World War I. The brutal trench warfare of WWII was a typical negative example. In WWII, the dense machine gun fire and large-scale artillery defenses made direct attacks extremely difficult. Both sides poured in huge forces but struggled to achieve a breakthrough. Tactics like trench warfare were not only inefficient but also led to massive casualties. This trapped both sides in a long stalemate. After World War I, many military experts began thinking about how to avoid such pointless attrition. The newly introduced tanks became the focus of attention. Tanks, as a revolutionary weapon, were initially invented by the British. They made their debut in the Battle of the Somme in 1916, but early tanks were slow and had a high failure rate. They didn't perform well on the battlefield. In the 1917 Battle of Cambrai, the British Army first used tanks in large numbers for an assault. Although the tank performance was still lacking, the attack ultimately wasn't fully successful, but this attempt demonstrated the potential of mechanized forces. After WWII, many countries began to integrate tanks, vehicles, and air power into their combat systems to improve mobility and breakthrough ability. British military theorist Liddell Hart proposed the indirect approach theory, which became an important source of the Blitzkrieg philosophy. He believed it was better to concentrate forces on the enemy's weak points through mobile tactics, rather than engaging in direct frontal attrition battles. Hart emphasized rapid movement and psychological pressure on the enemy, which aligned perfectly with the core idea of Blitzkrieg. Soviet Marshal Tukhachevsky also proposed the deep operations theory in the 1920s. He advocated for deep penetration with mechanized forces. This aimed to deliver multi-layered strikes against the enemy. Although this idea was never fully implemented due to Soviet political purges, it provided valuable insights for German military strategists. Besides the development of military theory, technological advancements also became a catalyst for modern warfare. The development of science and technology before World War II provided the material basis for Blitzkrieg. During World War II, Blitzkrieg could be applied on a large scale. This was mainly due to 3 technological changes. First, the improvement of tanks. Tanks, the most central element of Blitzkrieg, had evolved over 20 years. They had transformed from the slow and clumsy steel monsters of WWII into fast, flexible, and powerful combat machines. What was once a mere experiment in WWII became the king of land combat in World War II. They underwent significant improvements in speed, firepower, armor, and reliability. In terms of speed, the initial Mark I tank had a speed of only 6 kilometers per hour. By the early stages of World War II, the German Panzer III could reach a speed of 40 kilometers per hour. In terms of firepower, WWII tanks were usually equipped with small-caliber machine guns, while the German Panzer IV was equipped with a 75mm high-caliber cannon. This gave it great lethality against both infantry and enemy armor. In terms of armor protection, tank armor thickness was significantly increased during World War II. For example, the Soviet T-34 featured sloped armor, which not only enhanced protection, but also made it easier for shells to deflect. These improvements greatly increased the survival rate of tanks on the battlefield. In terms of reliability, significant improvements in engine technology, suspension systems, chassis tuning, and track design were made. The German Panzer III Infer tanks operated steadily. Their maximum range could reach 200 to 300 kilometers, ensuring the success of lightning-fast long-distance raids and rapid advances. The development of the Second Air Force. The addition of air power greatly boosted the Blitzkrieg's ability to conduct surprise attacks, making it hard for the enemy to stop effective counterattacks. During World War I, aircraft were in the early stages of aviation technology development. Their form and function were vastly different from modern aircraft in World War II. Aircraft, as a means of transportation, were first invented by the Wright brothers in 1903. The aircraft used during World War I were mostly biplanes with propellers. The fuselage was mostly made of wood and canvas. They were lightweight but not durable and were easily affected by gunfire and weather. After World War I, aviation technology advanced rapidly. The performance and tactical application of air forces made significant progress. Aircraft in this period showed significant improvements in speed, range, and payload. World War I aircraft typically flew at speeds over 100 kilometers per hour, but by the time of World War II, fighter planes commonly exceeded speeds of 400 kilometers per hour. For example, the German Messerschmitt Bf 109 reached speeds up to 570 kilometers per hour. In terms of range, World War I aircraft had a range of no more than 300 kilometers, while the German Heinkel 111 bomber in World War II had a maximum range of 2,300 kilometers, making long-distance support possible. In terms of payload, World War I planes could only carry small amounts of bombs or weapons. By World War II, bombers had a significantly larger bomb load capacity. The German Junkers Ru-88 bomber could carry up to 2,000 kilograms of bombs. This provided the foundation for long-range strategic bombing. After World War I, radio communication advanced rapidly, with the improvement in tube technology significantly boosting radio signal amplification. This improved communication stability, allowing a shift from the bulky, fixed radios of World War I to portable radios. This solved the problem of information transmission for mechanized forces. The key to Blitzkrieg's success was the high coordination between different units, and radio communication allowed commanders to control the battlefield in real time. Tanks, infantry, artillery, and air forces could receive orders at any time. Whether it was frontline tank units or air forces and artillery in the rear, they could quickly adjust their actions based on real-time situations, ensuring close cooperation. The technological and military advancements before World War II provided full support for the Blitzkrieg. From weapons and equipment to communication technology, these changes laid the foundation for a new tactical approach. They created the technological soil for the birth of a new tactic, but having theoretical backing and technical support was still not enough. Innovation requires combining theory with practice. This leads us to the German military's exploration and experimentation during the interwar period. The Blitzkrieg was developed by Germany, not by countries like the UK, France, or the Soviet Union. This was closely linked to the unique historical context and military culture Germany faced after World War I. Blitzkrieg tactics were not only a product of technological progress, they were also a proactive response to Germany's limitations. On one hand, due to the limitations of the Versailles Treaty, Germany could not expand its military size. This forced the German military to abandon traditional reliance on numerical superiority and search for more efficient tactics. With limited resources and manpower, Germany leaned towards exploring new operational models centered around rapid maneuver. On the other hand, the influence of Germany's traditional military culture played a role in Blitzkrieg. Rapid advance and adaptability were key. This required commanders at all levels to make independent decisions. German military tradition emphasized mission-type command. This gave lower-level commanders greater freedom, allowing them to complete tasks flexibly based on the situation, without rigidly following higher-level orders. This ensured the German military could maintain coordination in high-speed maneuver warfare and quickly seize opportunities. Additionally, Germany's harsh geographical environment, located in the heart of Europe, to the west, France, to the east, Russia, to the north, separated by the sea from the UK, surrounded by powerful enemies. In the event of war, Germany could easily face a two-front war. Facing the dilemma of a two-front war, this forced Germany's military strategy to favor quick victories. To avoid a prolonged war of attrition, the Schlieffen Plan created before World War I reflected this thinking. According to the Schlieffen Plan, if a world war broke out, due to Russia's vast land and inefficient rail transport. Germany needed to focus its forces in the west to defeat France in 6 weeks. Then, the army would return to the east to confront Russia. However, the western offensive faced obstacles during execution, so Germany ended up in a war of attrition in World War I. After World War I, the German military reflected deeply to avoid making the same mistake, and actively sought tactical innovation. The most representative figure in this was Heinz Guderian, known as the father of Blitzkrieg. Guderian participated in the famous battles of Verdun and the Somme during World War I. Both were typical examples of trench warfare. They were costly and slow-moving. Having experienced this, Guderian realized the inefficiency of stagnating tactics, the need to break the deadlock. In 1922, he was assigned to the German Army's Transport Corps. He was tasked with studying motorized transport issues. This task seemed ordinary, but it inspired his thinking on armored warfare tactics. While researching how to protect motorized transport, Guderian found that traditional infantry or cavalry escort methods were inefficient and fragile. He envisioned using armored vehicles to protect convoys. This idea led him to explore the combat potential of armored vehicles and tanks. So Guderian began in-depth research on the topic. He recalled the shock he felt when he first saw British tanks on the Somme battlefield. Despite the fact that tank technology was still immature at the time, its powerful breakthrough ability and psychological impact on the enemy left a deep impression on Guderian. He realized that tanks could replace traditional infantry as decisive weapons on future battlefields, especially if their breakthrough ability was combined with the speed of motorized transport. This could create a whole new way of fighting, breaking the stalemate of trench warfare from World War I. During this period, Guderian studied the works of British military theorists Fuller and Little Hart in depth. These predecessors all emphasized the central role of tanks in maneuver warfare and breakthroughs, and Guderian built on this to develop his own tactical concepts. He emphasized the role of tanks as rapid assault forces, and their coordination with the Air Force and motorized infantry. By the early 1930s, Guderian's theory of armored warfare was essentially complete. Although Guderian's tactical theory would later prove revolutionary, it was not easy to implement in the German army at the time. Pushing for the formation of independent tank units was no simple task. During his efforts to turn theory into practice, he encountered significant resistance. Many traditionalists in the German military believed infantry remained the dominant force on the battlefield. Tanks were seen as mere support weapons for infantry, belonging to infantry divisions. They faced strong opposition from cavalry units in particular. Because if tank units became mainstream, cavalry would become obsolete. This undoubtedly threatened the vested interests of the cavalry. So many traditional forces opposed Guderian's ideas. Even Guderian himself was sidelined for a time. For a long time, Guderian's radical ideas had little impact within the army, until he met another radical war enthusiast, Adolf Hitler. After Hitler came to power in 1933, he began rearming and expanding Germany's military power, but Germany's resources and population were still limited. Simply matching weapons and manpower would not be enough to compete with countries like Britain and France. So, how could Germany achieve its ambitious plans? Hitler had also experienced the grim horrors of World War I, so he knew well, to win the next war, he understood the need to quickly defeat the enemy in the early stages to avoid a prolonged war. For this reason, he was always searching for a strategy that could win swiftly and decisively. In 1933, at a weapons demonstration hosted by the German Armaments Office, Guderian commanded a small armored unit to perform a tactical demonstration. The unit showcased the tank's high mobility, ability to work together, and potential to break through enemy lines. Hitler was immediately drawn to the performance of the tank units. He greatly appreciated the armored unit's ability to break through enemy defenses and disrupt their command system in such a short time. Hitler, who was visiting, was so excited that he was dancing with joy. He excitedly said, "This is exactly what I wanted." This demonstration became a turning point in Guderian's career. His theory of armored warfare received strong approval from Hitler. Hitler quickly realized that the high mobility of tank units perfectly matched the demands of future warfare. From then on, he strongly supported the development of tank units. He clearly stated the need to establish a powerful mechanized army. The development of the German armored forces accelerated rapidly. Guderian was given the opportunity to put his tactical ideas into practice. Hitler promoted Guderian to be the key figure in the development of the German armored forces. He authorized him to oversee the formation, training, and strategic planning of armored forces. And in 1934, Germany began forming independent armored divisions. Guderian was appointed director of armor armored troops. In 1935, the first German armored divisions were formed. Guderian became the commander of the 2nd Armored Division. 3 armored divisions were built in the first batch. Each armored division had a tank brigade, supported by motorized infantry brigades, motorized artillery, engineers, communications, and supply units. At the same time, the German industrial sector accelerated the development of new tank models. Hitler directly pushed German industrial giants like Krupp, BMW, and Mercedes to participate in tank development and production. Through extensive tactical exercises and technical testing, they continuously improved tank designs, making them better suited to the demands of rapid assault tactics. During this period, Germany's Models 1, 2, 3, and 4 tanks were gradually produced and came off the assembly lines. Tank performance gradually improved, with stronger firepower, armor, and mobility. The Tiger tank, designed by Porsche, became a logistics nightmare for the Allies during World War II. With its powerful firepower and thick armor, it became a nightmare for the Allies. In 1937, Guderian systematically summarized his tank warfare theories. He wrote the book Acting Panzer, which provided the theoretical foundation for the development of Germany's armored forces. This book became the essence of Guderian's tank tactics. It was widely used as a textbook for German armored troops and officers. Through the spread of theory, it laid a solid foundation for fully utilizing armored warfare potential in future battles. It was through the combination of theory and practice. By the time World War II broke out, Germany's armored forces had developed into a highly mobile, tactically flexible, and technologically advanced modern force. Although there were still some deficiencies in tank performance and numbers, thanks to innovative tactical theories and an efficient command structure, German armored forces displayed incredible combat capabilities in the early stages of World War II. They provided strong support for Nazi Germany in achieving its early military objectives. Since all conditions were now in place, let's now officially begin introducing how Blitzkrieg works. However, first, it's important to note that the term Blitzkrieg was not officially used by the German military during World War II. The German military did not officially adopt the term during World War II. German commanders at the time preferred terms like maneuver warfare or rapid assault tactics. The term Blitzkrieg was frequently used by the British and American media after the Polish campaign ended. It was used to describe the rapid German offensives. It was vivid and emphasized the disruptive nature of German tactics against traditional warfare concepts. The concept spread widely among the public and historians. Back to the point, Blitzkrieg works by coordinating armored forces with their units. This creates a rapid breakthrough in the enemy's lines. Then, mechanized infantry and follow-up units push deep into enemy territory. They disrupt the enemy's transportation and supply lines and sever their command systems. The goal isn't to destroy the enemy's forces, but to break their defenses and force a quick surrender. The core idea of Blitzkrieg can be summarized in 3 words: speed, surprise, and concentration. Speed is about quick movement in war. Traditional combat focused on attrition, with both sides defending slowly. Blitzkrieg breaks the deadlock through speed. The German armored units had high mobility. They could quickly breach enemy lines and carry out deep attacks. Surprise is about striking unexpectedly. Blitzkrieg emphasizes the suddenness of the operation. It focuses on sudden attacks and exceptional mobility. This forces the enemy to be unable to adjust their defenses in time. The Germans would strike at weak or poorly prepared points in the enemy's lines. This would leave the enemy in a panic and lose their fighting ability. Concentration is about focusing strength. Blitzkrieg stresses concentrating superior forces, rather than spreading forces thin. On the battlefield, the Germans concentrated tanks, air force, and infantry. This gave them overwhelming superiority over the enemy. Once concentrated, they could achieve multi-branch coordination. This combination created the Blitzkrieg, a new form of warfare. It was Germany's concentrated innovation in military strategy and tactics. In 1939, Blitzkrieg had its debut in real combat. It also marked the start of World War II, the Blitzkrieg wave. In the early stages of World War II, Germany carried out several shocking campaigns, taking Blitzkrieg to its extreme. They rapidly conquered vast territories in Europe. The Battle of Poland was the first large-scale real-world application of Blitzkrieg. On September 1, 1939, the Germans swept into Poland from the north, west, and south with unstoppable force. In the Battle of Poland, Germany deployed 2,600 tanks and 2,300 planes, while Poland had only 800 tanks and 400 planes. Though Poland had more troops, its equipment was outdated, and it lacked mechanized forces. Their defenses were mostly static, facing Germany's armored attack. Poland could only launch several cavalry charges in response. These outdated cavalry units were no match for Germany's mechanized forces. Their counterattacks were insignificant to the Germans, while the German Stuka bombers bombed Polish railways, bridges, and communications in advance. This cut off the Polish army's command and supply lines. With ground troops and air support, Polish forces were quickly encircled and defeated, with almost no time to resist. The war ended with overwhelming superiority, and Poland surrendered just 35 days after the start. In the Battle of Poland, Germany won a complete victory with minimal losses. This validated the efficiency of Blitzkrieg. If the Battle of Poland was Blitzkrieg's testing ground, the Battle of France was its masterpiece. Germany could crush Poland with sheer power, as Poland's tanks and planes were far inferior to Germany's. But France was a different story. France was a major European power. Its military was very strong. France had more tanks than Germany, and they were better quality. In the Battle of France, both sides committed roughly equal forces. Each had around 3.3 million troops, and France had more tanks, about 4,000. Germany had only 2,400, but Germany had more planes. Germany had 5,600 aircraft. France had only 2,900. On paper, the forces were evenly matched. It seemed likely to become another attrition war like WWII, and France's leadership was ready for a long war relying on the Maginot Line. After all, the Maginot Line was a massive defensive project built by France over 10 years. It was a heavily fortified structure designed to be impenetrable. It was said to be invulnerable. The French had great confidence in the Maginot Line, but they didn't expect the Germans to outflank it with a surprise attack. They bypassed the Maginot Line. They struck directly through the weakly defended Ardennes forest, showing Blitzkrieg's surprise attack tactics at their finest. The Germans in the Ardennes were like an unstoppable force. It caught the Allies completely off guard. They smashed through the defenses. The German armored divisions quickly advanced through France. By executing Manstein's sickle-cut plan, they split and surrounded the Allied forces. Additionally, the close cooperation of the Air Force was a key factor in the success of this campaign. Germany gained air superiority with its Air Force. They launched intense bombing raids on French positions, crippling their transportation system. This hindered the movement and reinforcement of French troops. The rapid German assaults and airstrikes shattered French morale. Many units surrendered before engaging in major battles. Just 34 days after the war began, the German army captured Paris, the capital of France. The British and French forces lost most of their ability to resist. On June 22, 1941, after 42 days of resistance, the French government announced its surrender. The Battle of France demonstrated the speed advantage of Blitzkrieg and its efficient coordination, allowing Germany to defeat France, which was considered the strongest power in Europe. In just 6 weeks, it completely changed the political landscape of Europe. Whether it was Poland, France, or other European countries like Norway, Denmark, the Netherlands, and Belgium, they were all quickly conquered by Germany's Blitzkrieg. This highlights the strengths of Blitzkrieg, but like anything, it has its drawbacks. Blitzkrieg is not foolproof. It has its limitations and scope of application. It cannot achieve the desired victory in every situation. The weaknesses and limitations of Blitzkrieg began to show on the Eastern Front. Blitzkrieg is all about speed, mobility, and decisive action. This tactic worked well against smaller countries like Poland and France, but when faced with the vast strategic depth of the Soviet Union, it became difficult to apply. As the war on the Eastern Front progressed, the disadvantages of Blitzkrieg became more apparent. This was mainly shown in 4 areas. 1. Inability to cope with vast strategic depth. The core idea of Blitzkrieg is to quickly break through enemy lines, using the mobility of tank units and deep strikes to break the enemy. This tactic works only when the enemy's defense lines are limited. This allows the chance to quickly break through and penetrate the enemy's rear. The goal is to quickly defeat the enemy. However, the Soviet Union, as the largest country in the world, with a territory of 20.4 million square kilometers, is vast with great depth. So, even though Operation Barbarossa was successful at first, with the Germans advancing dozens of kilometers every day, so what? The Soviet Union was simply too large. Behind them, there were endless dozens of kilometers waiting for the Germans to conquer. It was because of its vast strategic depth that the Soviets could retreat time and time again. They traded space for time. The Germans were faced with the vast Soviet territory and endless defense lines, forcing them to exhaust their energy and enthusiasm in endless advances. They were eventually worn out. 2. Heavy reliance on logistics support to maintain rapid advances. Blitzkrieg relies on highly mobile armored units and motorized infantry. However, these forces depend on adequate logistics for effective operations, such as fuel, ammunition, medical supplies, and repair equipment. Mechanized units, in particular, consume large amounts of fuel during operations. This requires maintaining efficient supply lines and logistics. But as the German forces advanced further, their supply lines became increasingly stretched, combined with poor roads and harsh weather conditions in the Soviet Union. This severely weakened the efficiency of German logistics, making supplies increasingly difficult to maintain. Logistics nearly ground to a halt, not just due to fuel shortages. As tank breakdowns increased, parts needed for repairs couldn't reach the front lines in time, leading to many tank units being immobilized due to mechanical failure during their advance. They were unable to utilize their mobility advantages. 3. Requires specific terrain conditions. Tank units perform best on flat, open plains, but the complex terrain of the Soviet Union, unlike France, was not suited for mechanized warfare. The rugged mountain roads, muddy marshes, and narrow, congested city streets in the Soviet Union became major obstacles for German armored units advancing. 4. Requires air superiority. Blitzkrieg not only relies on armored units, but also on air support, especially when breaking through enemy lines. Air Force bombings and ground attacks provide crucial support in clearing the way for tanks. The Air Force played a key role in suppressing enemy air power and targeting their logistics and command systems during Blitzkrieg. Germany had air superiority in the early stages of the Soviet-German War, but as the war progressed, especially after the Battle of Stalingrad, the Soviet Air Force gradually gained strength, and Germany lost its air superiority. They could no longer provide effective air support to ground forces. This greatly reduced the effectiveness of Blitzkrieg. These four factors became major problems for Germany during the Soviet-German War. As the war progressed, Germany found it increasingly difficult to carry out Blitzkrieg. While the Soviet Union adjusted its strategy in the ongoing fight with Germany, the Soviets gradually adapted to the rhythm of the war. The Soviet Army's theory of deep operations, refined after several failures, became an effective means of countering Blitzkrieg. Especially after the United States entered the war, Germany found it increasingly hard to handle such a vast battlefield and the growing resource advantage of the Allies. The war once again became a war of attrition and stalemate. The script of a two-front war was replayed. Germany's defeat became inevitable. Looking back at the history of World War II, Blitzkrieg can be considered one of the most representative military innovations of World War II. Its revolutionary tactics broke the deadlock of traditional warfare. It pushed the development of modern warfare theory. However, Blitzkrieg is a double-edged sword. Its speed and efficiency gave Germany a huge tactical advantage, but its reliance on logistics and supplies made it difficult to sustain in prolonged warfare. After World War II, Blitzkrieg did not disappear with Germany's defeat. On the contrary, its core principles were adopted and developed by many countries. It had a profound impact on the evolution of modern military theory. With the rapid development of science and technology, modern warfare has gradually shifted from mechanization to information warfare. Precision strikes and efficient command have become the mainstream. Today, the introduction of new technologies like drones, network stations, and satellite navigation has made modern warfare more reliant on information advantages and technological synergy, rather than just speed and armored forces. But the core principles of Blitzkrieg remain relevant: rapid mobility, concentrated force, and efficient coordination. These principles are still key in modern warfare. In the 1991 Gulf War, the U.S. military's Operation Desert Storm maintained high mobility and speed advantages through rapid mobility, information-based warfare, and precision airstrikes. They swiftly destroyed the enemy's resistance. In just 42 days, they defeated the Iraqi army. In a sense, this can be seen as a modern continuation of Blitzkrieg.